And we're back. Episode 36 of the H.O.M.E.S Podcast. And we have the full crew here today. I'm Jeury. To the front of me is...
I'm Dave Kellogg. It's been a while. I forget how to do this, everybody. Good morning. Good morning.
And to the right of him is...
Hi, everyone. My name is Khadijah Johnson. It's great to be here again.
Nice. Well, finally, we have a full crew. David's been in Spain. Me and Khadijah have been holding the ship down. But today we have a very special guest, a senior planner at several different places, but notably at LaBella Associates, Matthew Rogers. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Of course.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. So I guess the people know who you are. I mean, I did I did my research. I did my Googles. Went a little bit of FBI status on you. No, I'm just kidding. But
why did you stop searching chicken coops? All of a sudden stops. A good deal on chicken coops.
But who is Matthew Rogers?
Sure. So I'm a senior planner with LaBella Associates. I've been a planner for about 25 years now. My focus really is working with communities on their long-range planning and land use issues, trying to help them guide their future growth. We work with all variety of sizes of communities, the city of Schenectady, very urban communities, right down to rural Adirondack communities and Catskill communities. Every community has their own issues, but at the end of the day, it's all about listening to the public, trying to identify what their concerns are to help put together an appropriate plan. So I enjoy working in the various communities I get to work in, and we have a tremendous team back at the office with LaBella at our various offices throughout New York State. So it's not just me. We have I'm backed up by a significant number of talented planners, engineers, architects, and a variety of other professionals that we bring to communities to help them plan their future.
Nice. When I was doing my homework, I saw on your LinkedIn page, I mean, from the start, you were like, you loved this. You have a passion for regulating cities and building cities up. Like, how did you find a passion for that? I didn't see that when I was going for college. I just saw computer science.
Kind of a circuitous route. I started off as a nurse, actually, because I wanted to get into healthcare, and I spent a year in Vermont, and that changed my mind to go into environmental planning. Ended up at SUNY Plattsburgh, and my advisor said, "Hey, why don't you try community and urban planning?" Because I wanted to do something with the environment, with the land uses, and kind of found my way there. And ended up at a couple different firms before I joined LaBella. And I just got very excited to be able to help communities kind of plan their future. I started as an intern at the Adirondack Park Agency, which is dealing mostly with rural planning and development, because I went to high school in Tupper Lake up in the Adirondacks, and just really fell in love with the Adirondacks. And eventually kind of found my way down to the capital region and really embraced the variety of communities down here. I mean, we work, my range is down into the lower Hudson Valley on up to the Adirondacks and kind of a little out west into New York. So we do get to help a variety of communities in it, and I've just kind of really enjoyed speaking with the public. I'm somewhat of an introvert, but when it comes to planning and speaking with people, I just have that passion to kind of figure out how to help them out. I mean, we can come into a community and read all of the studies that have been done, but we'll never have even the smallest understanding of what's going on in the community, and that's why having these variety of public outreach sessions and meeting with a diverse number of stakeholders in the community is key in order to put together an appropriate plan to guide the community's growth. So my profession has evolved over the 25 years. Initially started doing more regulatory work, but I've become to enjoy more the long-term planning, and also there is some zoning aspects of that too, as to how can a community regulate future growth for the for the benefit of the community, to bring in appropriate development, but also ensure that there's sufficient housing at the density that's needed for a city to be successful.
I hit two of my key points we spoke on real fast before the cameras turned on. We talked about why New York City is kind of fun. And the answer was there's enough density to have every type of store on every corner. You could have 3 bagel shops next to each other, and they don't have so many customers, they don't compete themselves to death.
Correct.
Right. So I'm glad you brought that up. And zoning does play a big part of it, right? What is allowed, what's not allowed. But I want to ask you, you said, we started with saying Schenectady is one of the largest.
Right.
Would you name a town for me that's on the smallest side of what you've been able to work with? Because I feel like if you don't have enough payroll in your government, maybe the whole planning thing is completely forgotten about. So you don't have your development planning. You don't have maybe you're like in Amsterdam, your zoning and building department's the same guy. So in the real small towns, like can you tell me about the effects you've had there?
Yeah, so it's probably one of the smallest towns that we prepared a comprehensive plan for is town of Claremont, which is in Columbia County, the southern part of Columbia County, right on the Hudson River. About 4,000, very rural, no water, sewer services, very limited kind of sense of like a downtown. It's really just the town hall, a brewery, winery, which is really big down there in Columbia County.
It's a bedroom community for the city if you drive that.
Yeah, it's a bedroom community. The majority of the population is either retired, works for the town, the state, school districts. Very agriculture, and it is shifting. It's moving more towards the wineries and distilleries and apple orchards and to more tourism kind of related than actually growing and shipping the crops. But they do have a pretty significant agricultural operation there. So the big difference there is they have very limited budget. They rely a lot on grants for future planning. A lot of the communities will do what they can, volunteers, to put together plans, and whether it's comprehensive or park improvements. And so I will give it to those rural communities where you really have to come together and supplement the limited budget that the communities have, the governments have for long-range planning. And I will say over the last 10 years, the state has done a significant job to provide other grant opportunities for these rural communities that maybe don't meet the economic criteria for a lot of the grants that were prominent previously. There's still a lot of grants that are dependent upon economic criteria of a community. But in terms of and maybe a more local community would be a village of Menands, which is on the north side of Albany. And again, they don't have a planning department. They have a building inspector that I believe is also the inspector for another community. They have a fairly small budget, although that's improving as they're in the process of revitalizing the Broadway district through Menands. So that gives us, a very interesting perspective to in all these communities, having that experience with 4,000 population communities on up to the city of Schenectady. We're also wrapping up a zoning ordinance up for the city of Plattsburgh, which was a complete rewrite of their code, which was over, I'd say, 30 years old, and it hasn't really been updated. And that's just good. They just updated their comprehensive plan, but their code has not been significantly updated in quite some time, and with a big focus on increasing opportunities for housing and mixed-use development.
They just closed their airport or army base or something?
Back in would have been the mid-'90s, Air Force Base closed. Actually, I had just moved there, starting school. And there was a period, like significant loss of population once the base closed. And over the years, the city and then organization, the corporation that kind of took over the base property has slowly opened that up, and it's fairly full for the most part. They moved their county airport to the base, which made sense. It's now international airport, brand new terminal, and so over the years they've been making significant strides in kind of dealing with the loss of that significant population, because the population is what you need, like you said, to support various businesses and other opportunities. So they've done a significant job in planning, and then the next big step was bringing their code into the 21st century.
You got something, David?
Yeah.
I know. Matt's saying some deep stuff there.
So I want to go back to. So I'm from a town called Bainbridge. Population is 2,500.
Yep, north of Binghamton. Is that?
It's on 88, so northeast,
Yeah.
along the border. And I was on the budget committee as the coolest junior senior ever for high school student could be.
Nice.
And in the 50s and 60s, they had a population like 3,800. And in a generation with the moving of big farms, and conglomeration of big farms out west, and refrigerated rail, the population went to 2,500. So you lost 50% up, a third down. So you lost a third of the population. And what do you do with a third of your people gone, right? And so the reason I want to ask that question, and you answered about the place in southern Greene County, was tourism. But I also think you need an industry where you export something and you import money, right? If you don't have something in your community to sell and you're 100% related to tourism,
right,
that's hard. That's hard. And tourism is great. Tourism is good, clean money. People come for they get gas, they buy lunch, they go to the destination they're going to, and hopefully they buy something that's manufactured there. They come up here and they hit one of the orchards and they buy gas and buy a pizza to go and 2 dozen donuts and grape. But that's tough to do all year, where you could export beer or wine every single day of the week. So on that comprehensive plan, was there any kind of encouragement to diversify and grow that agricultural base? Because it's an agricultural town like Bainbridge is. Like, what were the plans that way to say, look, you have land, you have the ability to manufacture something or grow something, add time and effort to it, and sell a product all year? Was that part of that plan?
Yes, and the comprehensive plans don't dig down too far into the details. The intent of the plan is to identify the issues, identify possible solutions, a lot of which are, further detailed studies or projects, because under the umbrella of a comp plan, we try to get it done within a year to 2 years, and identify the next steps for economic development purposes. But I will say for that community, we did recognize, the community recognized the benefit, the importance of the local agricultural presence. And they do have a cooperation of various farms that provide produce to this one business, then ships them, a lot of it, down to the lower Hudson Valley and to New York City. So that is a big part of that. And through the planning process, which is something that is evident in Schenectady as well, as we were meeting with the various stakeholders, all the farmers, business owners, the various other important stakeholders throughout the community, open space representatives, land trusts, et cetera, kind of recognize that agriculture is one of the key drivers for this community now. Always has been, but it obviously shifts over the years in terms of what the priorities are. So we concurrently also updated the zoning ordinance to make sure that there weren't as many limitations as there currently were on agricultural operations, and trying to provide opportunities for farmers and other larger landowners to kind of supplement their income besides just growing crops. So having events, providing other opportunities for breweries, et cetera, while also recognizing that we don't want it to overrun the character of the community, the quiet, slow character of the community. And so through that, the various organizations said, hey, we should get together more often, just like this, to have conversations of how we can share resources. I remember at that one particular meeting, somebody was looking for somebody to come and hay their field. They owned large property, but they didn't have the equipment, and they said, oh, check with so-and-so. And so sure enough, the next day they, said, hey, came over and hayed the field for her. It's a small little thing like that, but that's an example of how the planning process can help connect people and provide better opportunities for the community to get together and support each other.
It's hard to find that in big cities like Albany, Schenectady.
Well-
Someone's gonna say, "Give me $10 to run my tools."
There may have been a compensation piece,
Yeah.
but at least it wasn't the price of buying them.
Yeah,
like,
these-
these big tractors are $500,000 to $1 million, man.
Easy.
Big ones. So
Yeah.
So say, hey, can I get 20 minutes on your big tractor and take a portion of that?
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I don't know what the arrangement was, but it was an
Awesome.
a connection that wouldn't have been made if the community wasn't actively kind of bringing people together. So yes, there was the comprehensive plans do tend to kind of focus in on like, okay, this is potential opportunity. Here's the involved individuals that could participate. Here's potential funding sources, and it provides kind of a roadmap for the next step. So it's really incumbent upon the community to take those next steps, because that's where a lot of comprehensive plans kind of fall apart. And there's a lot of excitement over the year or two that it's being generated, a lot of connections are made. The legislative body adopts the plan, and then everybody's like, okay, I need to take a break. And there's no kind of follow-up,
Movement,
right?
yeah.
There's nobody in charge of that. So we hear a lot of that in all our communities, and we always try to help the community set up an implementation plan so there's responsibilities.
Yeah.
Who's responsible for it?
Accountability partnership.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
absolutely.
So we've had initial discussions in Schenectady to that a implementation committee will be set up that's responsible for coordinating with the common council and the various departments to make sure things are moving forward. And that could even be codified into the city charter too. That makes it a requirement as opposed to it would be great if you made these
changes.
These changes. Obviously, everything's dependent upon funding. A lot of that is, but that's also part of that too. Is making sure that the communities are actively looking for those funding sources, and they identify the professionals to help with that if they need it. And I know the city has a great planning department, and they do a lot of their own grants. And the second phase of this comprehensive plan, 90% of it actually is being paid for through a smart growth comprehensive plan grant from the state. So it's another example of kind of looking ahead to help pay
Nice.
for the second phase.
I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, when it comes to planning and zoning, I know maybe you guys don't know, but Matt actually spoke at the Saratoga County Planning and Zoning Conference last February or this February.
The last 3 years.
So you've been a
Yeah.
reoccurring person
Yes.
to speak on the changes. You spoke on, let me look at it right here, rethinking regulations, unlocking opportunities for affordable housing. We're 3 real estate agents. We deal with housing 24/7. So my question to you is, why is now the time communities should take a fresh look at zoning and planning changes?
Well, one, and it seems like I'm plugging the state here, but the state has released a new grant program. It's probably in its 4th year now, the Smart Growth Comprehensive Plan Grant. Whereas before, there was really no state grants out there directly focused on updating comprehensive plans for communities. You had to be creative from the different programs that were out there. So that was a timely presentation, something that the county wanted us to speak on. And the state's rolled out funding to implement the comp plan, which is the first phase of that is updating the zoning ordinance. So right now, not only is there funding out there for it, but post-COVID, you're all familiar, obviously, with the housing situation. We see it in every community, whether it's a 4,000 population community to the city of Schenectady or the city of Plattsburgh, where there is a big division between affordable housing and unaffordable, and then also the important thing is quality affordable housing. So what we've been doing is, for example, in Plattsburgh, looking at ways to provide opportunities for what we like to call gentle density. So not just taking single-family neighborhoods and saying, okay, we're going to allow multifamilies in here now, because there is an obvious concern that neighborhoods and residents are going to be like, hold on, we kind of like our large lots and the way things have been working for the last 50 years. Let's not go overboard. And that's never our intention or community's intention necessarily. So looking at ways to add, maybe instead of a single family neighborhood, allow them to have duplexes. Or you get a choice between a duplex and then what's called an accessory dwelling unit, a little
ADU?
backyard cottage,
Yeah.
ADU.
Yep.
The Fonzie house over the
Garage.
the garage, right?
Yep.
So So what we've over the years, and it's not rocket science, right? It's just going through the code and basically saying, all right, this code was developed in the 70s or 80s or 90s, and oftentimes codes are updated with a particular issue in mind. In some communities, the issue was we've had enough development. We want to slow things down. We don't want to have too much density in the community. And when we model build-outs based upon the current zoning, we realize that in certain communities you won't get the density you have now under the current zoning. And that could have been by design, or that just could have been a negative impact of that change. So we then work with the communities, with the legislative bodies, the other stakeholders, and talk about different potential solutions, whether it's just adding a potential unit to a single-family neighborhood, providing other unique opportunities such as allowing for schools and other public buildings to be reused, converted into housing. You're seeing that a lot now, and it's becoming more commonplace. And the big thing is just to make sure your code allows for that, while at the same time protecting the neighborhood from too much traffic, noise, etc. So, given the well-documented limitations for housing, and particularly the increase in what's called housing burden. So if you're spending more than about 30% of your income on your housing needs, and that's what HUD uses as kind of a metric. It's not like the one all specific data point that says, okay, you can't afford your housing. But we look at that in the communities just kind of get an idea of where the issues are. And in a community such as Schenectady, we can break it up into different census tracts and be able to kind of identify where the problem areas are in the community. So, and then that'll help kind of target the next step, such as the recommendations, and then looking at potential zoning changes, whether it's incentives so you can get what's called density bonuses if you provide a certain amount of housing at a particular price point, or you reduce the parking needs, which is a very concrete item, because that reduces the costs for the developer, because you're looking for ways to incentivize them to provide housing at a particular price point, while obviously allowing them to make a profit, because they're in the business of making a profit. And that's different than, say, the housing authorities per se. Although in Plattsburgh, we did have several conversations with the housing authority to figure out what their long-term plan is. And historically, housing authorities tend to focus on larger developments, towers, etc. And Plattsburgh's looking now to integrate their focus into the neighborhoods. So picking up properties to convert into 2 families or 4 families. And so we made some proposed changes in Plattsburgh, and actually I give a presentation to the Common Council next week on the full draft code. So I'm not going to say too much, but that's all public information.
So super interesting, because when you talk about developing a school or developing an old factory, and you're talking 70,000 square feet, Jeury might get one day. I may get one day, but we're going to do one day, maybe. But if you're talking about, let's take a 2-family and turn it into a 3, that's our meat and potatoes. That's something we can do. We could talk about raising the roof, putting 2 beds in the bath, just like 633 Lang Street did. But there was a density cap, and I would have had to go through the city to add a 3rd unit. So there's no kitchen. So it's now a 2-story unit. But it's I don't want to rely on there was a great documentary called Waiting for Superman, and it was talking about schools not having great graduation and whatever. So they waited to be saved by Superman. They wanted their kids to get into a private school or to a KIPP program or some other private enterprise that would do possibly a better job educating. And it's like waiting for salvation through this giant Superman saving figure. Okay. So if I had 5 dead factories, I'm waiting for someone who's going to renovate. My Superman comes in
That's so
for
true.
100,000 square feet. But if you say, hey guys, you know what? Everyone likes Bob's Burgers. I'm going to let you put your burger place downstairs and you live upstairs.
Right.
and we're going to let you add that third unit over the garage, or we're going to let you, if you have a huge lot and you want to put a second 2-family on, maintaining green space and whatever.
Sure.
There's rules. I'm not saying just throw the rules away.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're saying, hey, 1,000 developers in the town of Schenectady, go for it. And next year they add 1,000 more units over the course of 20,000 houses.
Right.
That's a much more likely thing. And let's say half of them don't do it. Well, guess what? You still have 500 doing it. I would rather basically self-promote that to the little guys than say we're waiting for this big financial savior to come in and develop something else. I'm not saying we don't want that, but it's nice to put the power in the little hands.
I would say to that point, zoning offices or departments in any other city, they make it a little bit difficult, don't you think, Matt? When it comes to wanting to maybe change the code or change the zoning on your property to do what you're saying, to make it a 3-family or a business on the bottom and residential on top. Those are challenges that zoning departments do face with trying to have things expedited to make those changes.
Right, because the zoning is first and foremost, it's a static document initially. So if something comes in and it doesn't work, it's just like, I'm sorry, it's not allowed. But and I advise multiple communities on their projects. So they'll just call me and say, hey, we got this project. The code's not very clear on this. What are the solutions? And oftentimes you get these situations where you're like, well, why wouldn't we allow this use? This makes no sense. One was allowing for a mixed use in an area that was zoned single family that there was really no reason for it because there was businesses and all their multifamily, but that was the last zoning update. And I said, we should take a look at this. And that takes time. That takes several months to change the zoning. But oftentimes, yes, projects will come in and be like, this seems like a great idea, but the zoning is a barrier. There are other options, such as what's called a planned unit development, which is communities that have that in their code. Not every community allows for a planned unit development, which basically allows an applicant to say, I have this use. It's not allowed under the current zoning. It doesn't fit exactly, but there's a process that the community has to review that, and then the legislative body would rezone the property for that use. So it's kind of legal spot zoning. So the term spot zoning, and this still happens in a lot of communities where somebody says, hey, I want to put a gas station here, but it's zoned residential. And they're like, okay, they'll rezone it. It's fairly generally in a legal process. It's an oversimplification. But the PUD is an opportunity to allow that. So, but it also gives the community a lot of leeway. So if it's a project that is just kind of off the charts, the community goes, no, we're not putting a gas station there.
Like chickens and trolleys?
No chickens and trolleys. And to be honest, I'm sure this municipality pays a lot for yard waste collection. If they could cut that yard waste collection by a third, a quarter, that's an actual dollar amount. And we talked about food deserts. I mean, there's no food desert when your chicken lays eggs, right?
Yeah,
that's true.
And we're talking about transportation to and from economic zones, often defined by where the zoning rules are, and they have wide brushes. So you could jump on
a trolley,
get downtown to your brand new aquatic center, which I think we talked about.
Yeah, we did.
No parking.
Yeah.
Or we talked about being able to access things like the Y that might have a discounted gym for you, or what have you. And I still think we should line Van Franken with cherry trees. Let people forage. I know.
He's not laying this down.
No.
Yeah, so zoning does provide a barrier, but communities need to constantly update it.
Sure.
And
it seems like that's one of the biggest challenges, having outdated code and zoning
yes,
practices.
Because things are evolving. But earlier in my career, I always noticed a much stronger pushback from the people making the decisions, and also a faction of the public, where it's like, well, we really don't want to do that. Nowadays, I think it's become evident that housing is an issue. Communities such as Schenectady, where the housing stock is significantly old, and there needs to be investment into those, and you need to provide an opportunity for somebody to make the investment, maybe add another unit, like you said. And so we're seeing a little bit more openness to making these changes, and by having that funding available now provides opportunities for communities to do that. So we get a lot of calls all the time. It's like, what, we need to update our code. Like, how do we go about doing that? Where can we get the funding to do that? What's the first step? So, and that's what I really enjoy is trying to provide that guidance. I don't come in thinking I have any solutions per se. We have experience from a lot of communities we work in, and we have about, I'd say throughout LaBella's organization, we have about 15, 16 planners.
Wow.
That are all able to jump on various projects and provide a lot of background and guidance. So, but yeah, nowadays zoning really needs to be overhauled and provide more flexibility.
But people change, right? Generations change, goals
Absolutely.
change, needs change, wants change. What's taboo then isn't taboo now.
Right.
And
Correct.
So I don't want to beat up on I don't want to beat up on anybody who enforces the code or zoning or anything like that. They're working with what, but at the time that was the best thing we had, and that was that reflects the wants and needs of the people at that time, right? But 30 years is a generation.
Yeah, and that's why you update your comp plan at least every 10 years, and that kind of gives you kind of a reset of where you're at. It's like, okay, how has the community evolved in the last 10 years? Is this the way we want to continue evolving, or do we need to change direction a little bit?
See, what I like what you're saying is that sometimes when we have clients come to us, they say, prices are going through the roof. There's no affordable housing out there on the market. Rents have to come lower to make, to justify ends meet. And you're going deeper. You're kind of talking about the plans that help these communities grow and be successful. That's even on a larger level where sometimes they may just look at the dollar amount and say, oh, this is too much. I can't do it. But it starts with the plans and the zoning to help these communities actually grow and develop to, big cities and flourishing cities too. So I actually appreciate what you're saying.
So there are two ways to work on housing prices and the percentage we spend towards it, right? I'm going to talk only about the housing, not about jobs or income. We have demand. We can tell people to stop wanting to buy houses and stop trying to find places to live in Schenectady or neighboring areas, so it's demand side or supply side. So that's why I like doing renovation properties, is because you're literally taking something that has no use. It's literally hurting the neighborhood. And if you do a decent job and you add, all of a sudden 2 units pop up. And the people that are out there doing 2 and 3 families at a time, they're not doing the Superman 500 units in an old factory or 100 units in an old factory, but you're finding value where value had been abandoned, right? So you're adding to the supply side, and thank goodness for that, right? But it does come down to how much of that is left to renovate, and at some point you do have to build new. Right, because there's only when you look at city-owned properties, right? All right, there's a couple now, right? There's not a lot.
There's not,
It's
no.
not like it used to be.
No, yeah, which is a good thing.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, man, because if you're on the investor side, you want to do good work and you have to get good dollar for it. But if there's not a lot, you're competing with people that do vinyl plank over a freaking dead body or something like that. I've seen vinyl plank laid on floors that you step on them and you hear the tongue and groove between the planks breaking.
Yeah.
Because there was no prep work underneath. It's like, just do it. It'll cover. And it does for a month or 2, right?
Yeah.
But I really wish that we had the supply side figured out where we would get these properties faster and cheaper, so there'd be more room for a greater improvement. But then I also want the people that do the work to be held to a higher standard. Right?
Seems like accountability
you can't
all
force
around.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't
That's
force that. I mean, you can't say well, you did a good job, but it's not what I wanted.
yeah. Unless we want to give Matt another job to do.
I
I think he's good with that.
I want to ask you this.
Sure.
How often does your interest in this turn into a video game? Like, for example, I'm a big SimCity fan. And I realized that you can't just put high density everywhere because then you have traffic issues.
Sure.
So then you do subway. Like how often does these real-time strategies where you craft and try to solve problems in a society actually lead to your position? Because at some point, we are going to need to put kids in the job that one day you'll vacate.
Right.
Right? Because we're all going to retire. Is there any correlation between something that might be fun and exciting to move into a track like yours?
I think I never really got into SimCity. I will say.
Monopoly?
Yeah, well, I always lose my wife. Takes all my money. But I know that the SimCity and those types of games have evolved, and likely, I hope, will get students interested in urban planning, community planning, rural planning, and as I mentioned, I think before we went on the air, as part of the comprehensive plan, we're reaching out and speaking with students, both elementary right out of high school, Union College, Schenectady Community College, to kind of get their input on what do they think about the city and what improvements should be considered to bring them back to invest and move their family here. I will say, though, at the end of the day, it's not always just about kind of putting things together, right? There's a lot of public outreach and conversations and understanding the issues and relationships between the municipality, legislative body, and the public and the businesses and all of the history of the community to kind of try to get an understanding of what's going on. And that's why we rely so much on the public and our working committee in the city. So, at the end of the day, I mean, we have used in public meetings, models to help people visualize. Okay, so if we're going from single family to two family, we have little cutouts of homes and stuff, and we can kind of begin to visualize. And I think that helps people participate more in the process. But that's only one component. And as you prepare a comprehensive plan, and then actually as you move into changing the code, you do have to look at what kind of impacts will that have. So we will look at the potential traffic implications, parking implications. Depending upon what the changes are, sometimes you actually prepare a full environmental impact statement to dig into the details. So I don't know if I'm answering the question
I just want to get
correctly.
into a spot where I want to bring up the fact that there's a path forward to your position and kind of where it went. But you did bring up something that I forgot about. I want to bring it back. It's
Sure.
a two-parter.
Okay.
So minus the college for a moment. Did you find a lot of similarities of what people's wants and needs are throughout all the places, regardless of location or economic well-being within the city of Schenectady?
Yes. I think some of the biggest issues were infrastructure, sidewalks,
Yep.
particularly.
Yep.
The quality of the roads, particularly overall, but there were certain areas of the city that people were focused more on. It doesn't seem like our neighborhood is getting the upkeep that we think everybody else is. So there is that. Parks are significant, and that was identified as a very positive aspect. So it's not all about negatives, and when we have conversations with the public, it's like generally the negatives come out first. But
Sounds like a human being.
Right. Yeah. And then we've had some meetings where it's just like, okay, I'm sorry to stop talking about all the positive things in your neighborhood. I know there's some things that are driving you a little crazy. So infrastructure, also communication from the city to the public as to what's going on. How can I get involved? What are the decisions being made that affects me? And a lot of that it requires the public to be involved and take the time. But we did hear a lot that maybe the communication out to the public can be better as well. Housing was a concern in almost every neighborhood. And code enforcement and blight and concerns like that.
Actually, staying on that point, because that's huge. Obviously, public perception plays a huge part in all this. But how do you suggest leaders to reach out to residents and local people in the area to stir up this change?
So what we found in Schenectady is you have a really robust set of neighborhood organizations, neighborhood associations, which is fairly unique. There are some neighborhoods that the associations have petered out or they're not as effective. But we found that those neighborhoods with very effective associations have more at least more dialogue, it appears, with the city itself. So that's one thing, and we're really pushing all of the neighborhoods to reestablish their neighborhood associations. Maybe the city can provide some guidance on that and some training, and that's going to be a big focus of the comprehensive plan. And then the other way too is, I will say that at pretty much every neighborhood meeting that we've had so far, we've had 10. We've had representatives from the Common Council attend a variety of those, as well as obviously city staff. And going forward, we haven't come up with necessarily all the solutions, but looking for ways to provide additional outreach to the communities. And one big aspect of that is the neighborhood associations, where you have an active group of individuals that can go and communicate with their representatives, go to City Hall, be able to bring back information and disseminate that to the neighborhood. Because everybody's busy. We've had some neighborhood meetings that we've only had a few people come out, despite the amount of public outreach and marketing we've done. And things are a little bit different now. I mean, people are busy. When school's in session, they're dealing with feeding the kids, getting their homework done, getting to bed. When it's summertime, they're dealing with what am I going to do with the kids, who's going to watch them, etc. So we recognize that, and that's why we tried to take a variety of different techniques to get the word out and get information back from the public. So you also have, you need an active legislative body too. And I'm not saying Schenectady is not. I'm just saying that's incumbent upon them, that they have to go out and reach out and find out what the issues are, and that's a responsibility of every community.
The last part I want to bring in, I swear this is my last question.
Okay.
What did you find was the students' couple big decisions why they go back home instead of staying in Schenectady?
Well, we haven't finished the conversations with them yet, but it's a matter of, is there something here, for me? Most time it's job related. The conversations we've had so far is that they love Schenectady. It's very walkable. They can walk to pretty much every place they want to go from campus. Proctor's and all of the entertainment components here, and just nice tight neighborhoods. That's what we've heard. So we're continuing to have those conversations with the students this year. But that's really what it comes down to. As an opportunity, how are the schools and other safe, clean neighborhoods that I could live in, and that's kind of the big takeaway we've heard from them so far, which is kind of what you would expect.
Well, you expect jobs. It makes sense that jobs are number one because most people get debt through college.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
You don't have unlimited time to start paying that back. So it makes sense.
Right.
When I was a student, I graduated from SUNY Albany, but my question was, what am I going to do in Albany? And there's nothing for people who graduate 22, 23 for them to do, even nightlife or even things to do during the day. So sometimes those are concerns people have too. I can work my life, but can I enjoy my life at the same time?
Sure.
And sometimes it's
having a vibrant community, and that's not to digress too much, but since the last plan, with downtown and the waterfront was a big focus of the last plan, and I would say that it's been very successful in revitalizing downtown. A lot of money's been put into downtown and the harbor, but now it's time to kind of start spreading that out. So a lot of housing has been built downtown, and there has been some housing built in the various neighborhoods, but the commercial centers and commercial corridors, the smaller businesses, the once family-owned businesses, the kids don't want to carry it on, they close. So that's when you start losing those small neighborhood-focused services, the old shoe repair and hair salon and little grocery store, corner store. And that's where we look at the zoning, too, to make sure that those older types of commercial uses can continue to survive going forward. If somebody closes it, somebody maybe can open back up a corner store down the road. So that's another important thing of looking at land uses and zoning to make sure that those opportunities remain. So that's kind of another big thing we've heard is that, okay, a lot of money's been spent downtown. Not to say that more can't be invested, particularly in certain areas where there's not a lot of foot traffic and not a lot of first floor commercial uses, but we really need to start looking at plans to make more investments further into the neighborhoods. So, and if I could take just a few minutes to talk about comprehensive plan in general, and the fact that so this Thursday from 6 to 8 o'clock at the Boys and Girls Club in Mount Pleasant, and that's 104 Education Drive. We're going to have our 11th neighborhood, and this is more of an end to the first phase of the comprehensive plan. So the city will be presenting the draft vision, goals, and objectives that have been developed through this last year based upon all of the meetings that we've had. There is a survey that's still out there that we will close probably within 2 weeks of the 9th. That's been open since, I think, November. So if you go to Electric City Recharged, which is the comprehensive plan's website, you can click on the survey and take that. That would be helpful, as we're looking to get as many responses there as we can. And at this meeting, we will have a variety of nonprofit organizations and other organizations like Discover Schenectady, Better Community Neighborhoods, Schenectady Community Action Program, NAACP. We'll be tabling and providing opportunities to educate the attendees about their services, along with some neighborhood organizations as well. So if you're in a neighborhood and you don't know if you have an active neighborhood association, come, and if you want to sign up, there'll be opportunities to volunteer for that organization. And then a few of the neighborhoods that we want to kind of restart those neighborhood associations, we're hoping to get a lot of people interested in that as well. So that's this Thursday from 6 to 8.
Thursday, 6 to 8.
So we'll be discussing everything we've heard to date, but also looking for additional feedback too. So it's not just us presenting the findings to date. So, and that wraps up the first phase of the comprehensive plan, which has all been on public outreach. And then the next year, so starting in November through to the fall of next year, we'll be putting together recommendations and other strategies with the help of the public and complete reaction of what we've heard. So we've heard a lot of issues in the vision and goals document, which will be released on Thursday as well, and that'll be available for everybody, particularly
what was
online.
that address again? I'm just putting
104. It's a 104 Education Drive in Mount Pleasant. So it's the new Boys and Girls Club facility, and they've graciously allowed us to have that meeting there. And there'll be some activities for kids. Not so the big thing we've heard is that, and we've always had tables for kids to hang out and color, do whatever they'd like to do during the meeting.
Me and David were going to that table.
Okay.
So I brought my kids to the first one here in Proctor.
Yeah. How was it?
Sat through it, and my oldest daughter said she's thankful for all the big buildings, because where we live, just on the Nisqually side of the border, it's all single, like 2-story houses.
Yep.
And then she comes down here and she goes down this, and from MVP building down, she's like, "Wow, these are huge."
She probably thinks she's in Times Square.
We have beautiful buildings.
It's true.
And that was one of the things that she was thankful for. I thought that was really cool, coming from a kid that maybe put 10 minutes of thought into it in the half hour before she got to ask, and that was a really cool answer.
Well, that's great.
We do have some really great foundations to keep building on.
I agree.
Yes, and then that's obviously another important thing that we've heard is that the city has great buildings, historic buildings, even those that aren't on register, the National Register. People do have a real desire to preserve those, and whether it's part of their neighborhood or, like I said, downtown, Stockade District, etc. That's an important part of the city going forward is to continue to look for ways to preserve those, and that's even again through a zoning allowing for reuse of older buildings to preserve the foundation. So
I had one last question before we wrap things up, but Khadijah, I want to pass the mic to you. Did you have anything to say?
You did exactly what I was going to ask you to do, which was talk about the meeting on Thursday. So I'm good.
That was easy. I guess I want to just know, can you share like a success story where maybe you guys took a city, made some changes, and made housing and affordability present in those areas?
Well, I mean, again, with the comprehensive planning, it's the plan, and then there's implementation. So oftentimes we obviously like to continue working with the community after the plan is adopted. And very long time ago, I did some work in Saratoga Saratoga has it. We're not taking credit for Saratoga's benefit, but a lot of the same type of planning type elements, because I used to work at a firm in downtown Saratoga, and through various years we worked with the city to kind of reorient their code and their overall planning outlook, and it's nice to see that city evolve. It is very, the density has increased. I wouldn't say it's necessarily an affordable community, but they have a focus. It's tourism, it's horses, and it's a fairly year-round community. Plattsburgh, we've done a lot of work in the town and the city of Plattsburgh over the years, and like I said before, we've culminated in updating their code, which is going to be released in the next few weeks, which is the next big step. We updated the town's code with a focus on revitalizing their commercial corridors. So through that guidance and the hard work of the community, I mean, I'll never take credit for the decisions.
You got to, Matt. This is your time to shine.
I'll take credit for pulling people together, for squeezing out that information, and having night meetings all the time, and annoying my wife for coming home late and stuff. So there is that, and I am proud of the work that we've done. But that's another example where things it takes time. It's never just flipping a switch. These particularly code updates, it's never you adopt it and everything gets built the way you want it. It's going to take 5, 10, 15 years. So, but Plattsburgh is another community that I have hold near and dear because I went to school there, and it's one of my favorite communities right on Lake Champlain. So it's nice to see the town and the city evolving and reusing the properties on the old base, and the population starting to creep up. We've done work in Saranac Lake, another Adirondack community that I love too, and it's great to see parks being built that LaBella has worked on, providing recreational opportunities for the community. And also I advise their development board, which is like a planning commission, and I enjoy seeing projects that we help review and make better, to actually get built and provide opportunities for the residents and business owners of those communities. So looking forward to continuing the next phase of the city's comprehensive plan. I think the first phase was easy because we were just listening to everybody and trying to bring everybody together. Now we're moving into a more difficult phase where we're coming up with strategies and recommendations that we hope over the years will continue to lead Schenectady into the future in a positive way.
I love it.
Awesome.
Bring it to Albany. But
Yes.
I see Albany's making some changes too.
They are. Yeah,
'Cause
they're doing
they're
big,
making a lot of
big
changes.
downtown plan.
Washington
Yep.
Park is being renovated as we speak.
Yep.
Yes.
Lincoln Park
Yep.
is just done.
So they're doing a lot of good things there too.
Yeah, like cities such as Albany, Schenectady, and Troy, you have to kind of go at it on a phased level.
Yeah.
And every one of those communities has a planning department. And I know they have the best interests in the community at heart, and a lot of times it's money. So Albany got a shot in the arm with the significant grant from the state. I know Troy has done the same. I mean, Troy's downtown is spectacular as well,
Yeah.
and I'm happy that I live in this area because I can go to these various cities and spend a lot of time there, all the farmers markets and walking around in restaurants, and it's a great resource to have. And when we talk to students, we explain that. It's like, have you ever lived in a community where you have access to these 3 cities, and then Saratoga, and then a hop, skip, and a jump up to the Adirondacks?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't ask for anything better. But I know that every community has its issues, and that's why we're here to kind of help them work through those and hopefully solve as many of those as we can.
That's awesome.
Well, David, do you have any last words?
I'll do my best to see you on Thursday.
Hey, Khadijah?
Appreciate that.
No, this was great. Thank you so much.
All
I
right, thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Yeah, and Matt, I want to just say, it looks like at the end of the day, neighborhood associations, if you're someone who's just a part of the community, start there.
Yes.
Go to your neighborhood associations and start the conversation, because that's going to start influencing change to your level. and code and so on and so forth. So thank you for coming out. It's been a pleasure.
I've had a great time.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll come back to the next phase.